Good morning/afternoon/evening, everyone. We've all been there, that moment when a conversation takes a turn and suddenly you feel drained, manipulated, or diminished. Maybe it's a coworker who thrives on drama, a friend who always turns the conversation back to themselves, or a family member whose negativity seeps into every interaction. Toxic people, we all encounter them, and yet so many of us struggle with how to handle them in a way that honors our boundaries and our well-being. So today I want to share 7 clever ways to deal with toxic people, not by fighting fire with fire, but by standing firm in our own courage, clarity, and self-respect. Toxic people aren't toxic by accident, and their behavior isn't random. They operate in cycles, using the same tactics over and over again to manipulate, control, or drain the people around them. But here's what often happens. We get caught up in the moment. We focus on one particular conversation, one particular argument, one particular guilt trip. We tell ourselves, maybe they didn't mean it like that, or maybe they're just having a bad day. And so we let it slide. But if we step back and look at the bigger picture, a pattern begins to emerge. A pattern of blaming, of playing the victim, of twisting the truth, of making you feel guilty for things you shouldn't feel guilty about. Maybe they always seem to forget the things that matter to you, but expect you to remember every detail of their life. Maybe they have a way of making every disagreement your fault, even when you know deep down that you weren't in the wrong. Maybe they shower you with kindness one moment only to tear you down the next, leaving you confused and emotionally exhausted. Recognizing the pattern means refusing to get lost in the individual incidents. It means looking at the relationship as a whole and asking yourself, is this a one-time mistake? Or is this a repeated behavior? Does this person take responsibility for their actions, or do they always shift the blame? Do I feel consistently valued and respected in this relationship, or do I often feel drained, belittled, or manipulated? One of the biggest traps we fall into is waiting for proof that someone is toxic. We tell ourselves, if they do this one more time, then I'll know for sure. But the truth is, you don't need one more incident. You don't need a final straw. The weight of the pattern is enough. Think about it like this. If someone handed you a glass of water and told you it had just a tiny bit of poison in it, would you wait to take another sip to make sure, or would you trust what you already know? Toxic people count on us getting distracted by the moment, by the excuse, by the apology that never comes with real change. But once you see the pattern, once you understand that this isn't just about what happened today, but about what has been happening for a long time, you gain clarity, and clarity is power. Because when you recognize the pattern, you stop hoping they will change, and you start deciding how you will change your response. Boundaries are one of the most powerful tools we have when dealing with toxic people, yet they are also one of the hardest things to enforce. Why? Because setting a boundary isn't just about saying what we will or won't tolerate, it's about following through, even when it's uncomfortable. Too often we set boundaries with the hope that the other person will respect them, that once we say, I don't allow people to speak to me like that, they'll stop. But here's the hard truth. Toxic people don't like boundaries. They thrive in environments where they can manipulate, guilt trip, and push past your limits. So when you set a boundary, expect resistance, expect them to test you, expect them to guilt you into backing down, what boundaries actually are and what they're not. A lot of people confuse boundaries with rules for other people, but a boundary isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about defining what you will and will not allow in your own life. For example, weak boundary. You need to stop yelling at me. Strong boundary. If you continue to yell at me, I will remove myself from the conversation. Do you see the difference? The first statement tries to control the other person's actions, which you can't do. The second one is about your own response, which is within your control. Why boundaries fail and how to make them stick. A boundary that isn't enforced is just a suggestion. Toxic people will push and test your limits to see if you really mean it. And the moment you back down just once, they learn that your boundary isn't real. Let's say you tell a friend, I can't be around you when you start gossiping about other people. The first time they do it, you say nothing. The second time, you uncomfortably laugh and try to change the subject. By the third time, they know they can ignore your words because your actions didn't follow through. So how do you make boundaries stick? By being consistent, even when it's hard. When someone crosses the line, you must hold firm. If you said you would leave the conversation, then leave. If you said you wouldn't engage in their negativity, then don't. The moment you enforce a boundary, you send a clear message. I respect myself enough to uphold my own limits. The emotional toll of boundaries. One of the hardest things about setting boundaries is the emotional backlash, especially if the toxic person is someone you care about. They might call you selfish. They might accuse you of being cold, unkind, or abandoning them. And that can be incredibly painful. But here's what you need to remember. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about recognizing that your emotional well-being matters. That you don't have to keep sacrificing your peace just to keep someone else comfortable. And let's be honest, people who truly respect and care about you won't punish you for having boundaries. Only those who benefited from you having none will make you feel guilty for setting them. Boundary setting in action. Let's say you have a family member who constantly criticizes your life choices. Every phone call turns into them questioning your decisions, making passive-aggressive comments, or telling you what you should be doing. You leave every conversation feeling drained and invalidated. A clear boundary might look like this. First step, I don't feel comfortable discussing my personal choices with you. They continue, if this topic comes up again, I'll need to end the conversation. Final enforcement. The next time they bring it up, you follow through, politely but firmly ending the call or walking away. At first, they may be shocked, they may push harder, but over time, they'll learn that when you set a limit, you mean it. The freedom that comes with setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's you telling yourself, I deserve peace. I deserve respect, and I will not allow anyone to treat me in a way that compromises my well-being. It may not be easy at first. It may come with discomfort, pushback, or even loss, but the more you uphold your boundaries, the more you reclaim your own power, and that's something no toxic person can take away from you. Toxic people thrive on emotional reactions. They push buttons, stir up drama, and create chaos because they know that when you're emotional, you're easier to control. Maybe they guilt trip you into doing something you don't want to do. Maybe they provoke you with passive-aggressive comments until you snap, and then they turn around and say, see, you're the problem. Their power lies in your reaction. The moment you react without thinking, they win. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do when dealing with a toxic person is to pause. Just pause. Why we react so quickly. We're wired for immediate responses. When someone insults us, we want to defend ourselves. When someone blames us unfairly, we want to correct them. When someone tries to manipulate us, we want to push back. It's natural, but it's also exactly what toxic people are counting on. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from an argument, replaying everything in your head, thinking, I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I had handled that differently? That's because when we react in the heat of the moment, we're acting from emotion, not from strategy. And toxic people know how to take advantage of that. The power of the pause. Pausing before responding gives you control. It gives you a moment to step back, take a breath, and ask yourself, what's really happening here? Is this person trying to bait me into an argument? Are they twisting my words to make me feel guilty? Are they playing the victim to avoid accountability? That single moment of pause allows you to shift from reacting to choosing. And when you choose your response instead of giving them an automatic reaction, everything changes. How to pause and choose your response. Pausing isn't about being passive, it's about being intentional. Here's how to do it effectively. Take a breath before saying anything. Inhale deeply. That small action interrupts the automatic reaction process in your brain and gives you a second to think. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Not every comment deserves a response. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. Stay neutral. Instead of arguing or defending yourself, respond with neutrality. Toxic people want a strong reaction. If you stay calm, they lose control over the situation. Use short, non-emotional responses. If you need to say something, keep it simple. I hear you. It's your opinion. I'm not going to argue about this. Let's agree to disagree. These responses acknowledge them without feeding into their game. Exit if necessary. Sometimes the best choice is to walk away. If a conversation is escalating into toxicity, excuse yourself and disengage. Real life example, the drama starter. Imagine you have a coworker who loves stirring up drama. They say something like, wow, must be nice to leave early again today. Some of us actually work hard. Your instinct might be to defend yourself. I'm not leaving early. I worked extra hours this week. But the moment you do, they've got you. Now they can twist the conversation and keep the drama going. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you choose, and you respond with a calm, neutral statement like, I'm following my schedule. See you tomorrow. Then you walk away. No energy wasted, no fuel for their fire, just peace. The magic of non-reaction. Here's the thing, when toxic people realize they can no longer get a rise out of you, they often stop trying. They either find someone else to provoke or realize their tactics don't work on you anymore. Pausing isn't weakness, it's power. It's you choosing to protect your energy instead of letting someone else control your emotions. Because at the end of the day, your peace is worth more than any argument you could ever win. If you've ever dealt with a toxic person, whether it's a manipulative coworker, a narcissistic ex, or a drama-loving friend, you've probably noticed one common trait. They love attention. It's their fuel. They thrive on emotional reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, or even excessive praise. As long as they can stir up emotions in you, they have control. So how do you take that power away? You master the art of the gray rock method, a simple but highly effective strategy that makes you as interesting and engaging as, well, a gray rock. Dull, unremarkable, unresponsive. Why does the gray rock method work? Toxic people want engagement. They want a reaction, a fight, a debate, something to feed their need for control and drama. When you become emotionally detached and uninteresting, they lose interest in you. They can't manipulate you if you don't engage. Think of it like this. If a child throws a tantrum and you keep giving them candy to quiet them down, they learn that throwing a tantrum gets them candy. But if you stop responding and walk away, the tantrum loses its power. It's the same with toxic people. If you stop giving them emotional rewards, they'll eventually move on. How to be a gray rock. The goal of the gray rock method is to minimize engagement while remaining polite and neutral. Here's how you do it. Keep your responses short and boring, toxic person. Did you hear what she said about you? I can't believe she would do that. Oh, toxic person, aren't you mad? You should say something. You, not really. Toxic person, you're no fun. You, okay. See what happened? You gave him nothing to work with. No emotional response, no drama, just dull, uninteresting answers. Use neutral body language. Your words matter, but so does your body language. If you roll your eyes, sigh dramatically, or clench your jaw, they know they've gotten to you. Instead, keep your face neutral, your tone calm, and your body relaxed. Imagine you're a customer service rep dealing with a difficult customer. You're polite, professional, but completely detached. Avoid sharing personal information. Toxic people love to use your words against you. The less you share, the less ammunition they have. If they ask personal questions, keep your answers vague. What's new with you? Not much. How's work going? Same as always. Are you seeing anyone? Nothing exciting. The less information you give, the less they can twist or use to pull you into drama. Don't defend, explain, or justify toxic people or experts at baiting you into defending yourself. The moment you start explaining, they have an opening to argue, criticize, or manipulate. Instead of justifying your actions, keep it simple. Why don't you ever call me first? I've been busy. You always act like you're better than me. That's not my intention. Why did you ignore my text? I was occupied. No elaborate explanations, no long discussions, just neutral, unemotional responses. Exit conversations quickly. If a toxic person keeps pushing, politely excuse yourself. I've got to get going. I need to finish something up. I'm heading out. Take care. No apologies, no drawn out goodbyes, just a simple, clean exit. When to use the gray rock method. The gray rock method is especially useful in situations where you must interact with a toxic person, but want to minimize their impact on you. This includes at work, if you have a toxic coworker or boss who thrives on gossip and manipulation. With family, if you have a controlling parent, a dramatic sibling, or a relative who drains your energy. In co-parenting situations, if you share custody with a toxic ex and need to communicate without engaging in conflict. With narcissists and manipulators, if someone in your life constantly seeks attention, stirs drama, or enjoys creating chaos. When not to use the gray rock method. While gray rocking is powerful, it's not always the right approach. In healthy relationships, if someone genuinely cares about you, but you're avoiding them out of frustration, have an honest conversation instead. When safety is a concern, if a toxic person has a history of becoming aggressive or violent when ignored, consider seeking professional support or a safe exit strategy. When cutting ties is possible, if you don't have to keep this person in your life, consider setting firm boundaries or going no contact instead. The freedom of becoming uninteresting. At first, it might feel unnatural to stop engaging. We're used to defending ourselves, explaining, reacting. But the more you practice the gray rock method, the more you'll notice something incredible happening. They stop pushing as hard because they don't get the response they want. You feel less drained after interacting with them. You regain control over your emotions and energy. And most importantly, you start to realize that you don't have to play their game. You don't have to match their energy, feed into their drama, or let them dictate how you feel. Because in the end, the best way to win against a toxic person isn't to fight them, it's to make them realize there's nothing left for them to fight against. One of the most exhausting things about dealing with toxic people is feeling like you constantly have to explain yourself, your choices, your boundaries, your decisions, even your feelings. It's a trap they set, and most of us fall right into it. Why? Because we are conditioned to believe that if we just explain things clearly enough, the other person will understand. that if we justify our choices with enough detail, they'll respect them. But toxic people don't actually care about understanding you. They care about controlling you. And the more you explain, the more power you give them. The explaining trap, toxic people will often question you in ways that make you feel like you owe them an explanation. Why are you being so sensitive? Why don't you want to come? Why can't you just help me this one time? Why are you being so distant? Why don't you want to talk about it? These questions might seem innocent, but they aren't. They're designed to put you on the defensive. The moment you start explaining, they twist your words, poke holes in your reasoning, or make you feel guilty. For example, I can't make it tonight because I have an early morning tomorrow. Toxic person. Oh, so you can't stay out late for me, but you stayed out late last weekend. That was different because toxic person. So now you're making excuses. Just admit you don't care about me. And just like that, you're caught. The more you try to clarify, the deeper you sink into their emotional quicksand. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Here's a truth that will set you free. You are allowed to say no without explaining why. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to defend your decisions. You don't have to convince anyone that your feelings are valid. If someone truly respects you, they won't demand explanations. They will honor your choices without interrogation. How to stop over-explaining. Breaking the habit of over-explaining takes practice, but it's one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your peace. Use short, firm responses. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. I've made my decision. I don't want to discuss this. No long explanations, no justifications, just a simple, clear statement. Repeat yourself. If necessary, toxic people will often push back, trying to get you to break. The key is to stay consistent. Them, why won't you help me move this weekend? I'm not available. Them, come on, it's just for a few hours. I'm not available. It's not looking for a sign, it's looking for an unsign. You aren't available, it's looking for notice how you don't have to give a reason. The more you repeat yourself, the clearer your boundary becomes. Stop seeking their approval. A major reason we over-explain is because we want the other person to accept our reasoning. But with toxic people, no explanation will ever be enough. Once you realize you don't need their approval, it becomes much easier to simply say no and move on. Let silence be your response. Sometimes the best answer is no answer at all. If someone keeps pushing for an explanation, don't engage. Let them sit with your decision. You don't owe them an argument. Detach from guilt. Toxic people are experts at making you feel guilty for setting boundaries. But remember, their discomfort is not your responsibility. Saying no does not make you a bad person. Prioritizing your peace does not make you selfish. Real life example, the guilt-tripping friend. Imagine you have a friend who always expects you to be available. Every time you say no, they demand a reason, hoping to guilt you into changing your mind. Them, hey, can you come over and help me with something? I can't today. Them, why not? What are you doing that's so important? I'm just not available. Them, wow, okay, I guess I know where I stand now. At this point, you might feel the urge to explain yourself, to say, it's not that I don't care, I'm just really busy, but you don't need to. Their reaction is their issue, not yours. When to explain and when not to. Not every situation requires shutting down the conversation. In healthy relationships, explanations can foster understanding. But here's how you know when not to explain. If someone constantly disregards your boundaries, if they use your explanations to manipulate you, if they guilt trip or gaslight you when you say no, if you feel exhausted every time you try to justify yourself, in these cases, less is more. the freedom of saying less. Once you stop explaining yourself, something incredible happens. You feel lighter. You feel more in control. You realize that you don't have to perform emotional gymnastics to justify your own choices. Because at the end of the day, you don't need permission to protect your peace. And the people who truly care about you, they'll never make you feel like you do. Many of us were raised to believe that being a good person means being patient, understanding, and forgiving. We're taught to give people the benefit of the doubt, to see the good in others, and to always be kind. And in many ways, these are beautiful values until they're used against us. Toxic people love compassionate people. They know that kind-hearted individuals are more likely to overlook their bad behavior, justify their mistreatment, and keep giving second chances. They rely on our empathy to keep us stuck in unhealthy situations. And if we're not careful, we start confusing compassion with tolerance, allowing toxic behavior under the guise of being understanding. But here's the truth. Compassion does not mean tolerating mistreatment. You can have empathy for someone and still walk away. You can understand why they act the way they do and still refuse to let them hurt you. The danger of endless compassion. When we confuse compassion with tolerance, we end up making excuses for toxic behavior. They're going through a lot right now. They don't mean to hurt me. They just don't know any better. If I just give them time, they'll change. I know they have a good heart deep down. These justifications keep us in relationships that drain and harm us. We believe that if we love someone enough, if we're patient enough, if we keep giving them grace, they'll finally wake up and treat us with the kindness we deserve. But toxic people don't change because we love them. They change only when they decide to. And many of them never do, because why would they? If they can keep treating us poorly and still have access to our time, energy, and kindness, what's their motivation to change? Compassion has limits. Real compassion is not about endlessly enduring someone's mistreatment. It's about recognizing their struggles while still protecting yourself. It's about saying, I care about you, but I won't let you hurt me. I understand your pain, but I'm not responsible for fixing it. I see where you're coming from, but I still deserve respect. You can feel for someone's past trauma and still refuse to be their emotional punching bag. You can acknowledge their hardships and still set boundaries. Because at the end of the day, you matter too. Signs you're confusing compassion with tolerance. You constantly excuse bad behavior. If you find yourself justifying their actions, no matter how hurtful they are, you might be tolerating toxicity under the mask of empathy. You feel emotionally drained. Compassion should feel fulfilling, not exhausting. If being around someone leaves you depleted, it's a sign that you're giving too much. Your needs are always secondary. If their feelings, problems, and desires always come before yours, your compassion may be turning into self-sacrifice. You stay in toxic situations out of guilt. Feeling bad for someone is not a reason to keep allowing them in your life. How to have healthy compassion. So how do we practice compassion without becoming a doormat? Recognize when it's time to walk away. You can care about someone and still choose to love them from a distance. You can have empathy for their struggles and still refuse to let them pull you into their chaos. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do for them and for yourself is to step away. Set clear boundaries. Compassion doesn't mean giving someone unlimited access to you. If someone constantly drains your energy, disrespects you, or manipulates you, set firm boundaries. And more importantly, enforce them. Let go of the guilt. Walking away from a toxic person does not make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you don't care. It simply means you respect yourself enough to protect your own peace. Shift from fixing to observing. Instead of trying to fix or save someone, step back and observe. Are they actually making an effort to change, or are they just making excuses? If they aren't taking responsibility for their actions, your compassion won't make a difference. Ask yourself, if I keep giving, what am I losing? Compassion should never come at the cost of your own well-being. If someone's presence in your life is causing you more harm than good, it's time to reevaluate. The power of balanced compassion. Compassion is one of the most beautiful qualities we can have, but only when it's paired with self-respect. When we stop confusing it with tolerance, we free ourselves from unhealthy relationships and toxic cycles, because real compassion isn't about sacrificing ourselves for others. It's about choosing kindness, but never at the expense of our own peace. Dealing with toxic people isn't easy. They push boundaries, manipulate emotions, and drain energy. But here's the truth. You don't have to engage in their chaos. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to tolerate mistreatment in the name of compassion. And you certainly don't have to sacrifice your peace to make someone else comfortable. By recognizing toxic patterns, instead of just isolated moments, you take back your clarity. By setting boundaries and actually enforcing them, you reclaim your power. By pausing before reacting, you choose how you show up. By mastering the gray rock method, you refuse to be a source of drama for someone who thrives on it. By stopping the need to explain yourself, you break free from the cycle of justifying your own worth. And by understanding the difference between compassion and tolerance, you make space for relationships that nourish you instead of depleting you. At the end of the day, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary, because your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being are too valuable to be spent on people who refuse to respect them. The more you practice these strategies, the more you'll realize something powerful. You are not responsible for fixing, saving, or managing toxic people. You are only responsible for protecting yourself from them. And when you do, you create space for the kind of relationships, experiences, and peace that you actually deserve.